So picture this. It's November 9th, 1989. Berlin is divided. It's been divided for 28 years. A concrete wall runs through the middle of the city, separating families, separating dreams, separating an entire nation. On one side, you've got West Berlin, thriving, free, capitalist. On the other side, East Berlin, under Soviet control. Oppressive. And then something happens that nobody really expected. A government official misspoke during a press conference. That's it. One misspoken sentence changed the course of history and led to one of the most iconic moments of the 20th century. The Berlin Wall came down, and it happened almost by accident. Let's back up.
After World War II ended in 1945, Germany was completely destroyed. The entire country was divided up between the four Allied powers. The Soviets and the Western powers, they
didn't trust each other. Not even a little bit. The relationship deteriorated pretty much immediately. By 1947, the wartime alliance had completely fallen apart. The Cold War had begun. Stalin, the Soviet leader, wanted to control Eastern Europe completely. He wanted a communist buffer zone between the Soviet Union and Western Europe. He was terrified of another German invasion, and he thought the best way to prevent that was to have friendly communist governments all around Soviet borders. Meanwhile, the United States wanted to stop communist expansion. They were worried that if one country fell to communism, others would follow, like dominoes. This tension played out Berlin more intensely than anywhere else. By 1948, the Soviets decided they wanted West Berlin out. They couldn't control it militarily because the Western powers were there too, but they could try to starve it into submission. So Stalin ordered a blockade. No food, no fuel, no supplies could get into West Berlin, by land or water. The Soviets thought the Western powers would just abandon the city. They didn't. Instead, the Americans and British launched the Berlin Airlift. For almost a year, planes flew constantly into Berlin, delivering supplies. It was one of the most impressive logistical achievements ever. The Soviets eventually backed down, but the tension didn't go away. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, East Germany was a mess economically. The communist system just wasn't working. People were poor, there was no freedom, and thousands of East Germans were trying to escape to the West any way they could. They'd hide in car trunks, they'd climb fences, they'd do whatever it took to get out. By 1961, the exodus was becoming unbearable for the East German government. Almost 4 million people had left. The leadership was panicking. They needed to do something drastic. So on August 13th, 1961, the Berlin Wall went up. Literally overnight, barbed wire and concrete barriers started going up around West Berlin. Then they brought in the heavy construction equipment and built a massive concrete wall, 12 feet high. Guard towers went up, dogs patrolled, machine guns were mounted. It was a prison, but the prison was surrounding the free part of the city, not the communist part. The wall wasn't designed to keep people out. It was designed to keep people in. It was one of the most visible symbols of communist oppression in the world, and it would stay there for nearly 3 decades. Thousands of people died trying to escape over that wall. They'd be shot by guards. They'd get electrocuted on barbed wire. They'd suffocate hiding in car engines. Families were separated. Parents couldn't see their children. Spouses couldn't see each other. For 28 years, this wall divided Berlin, divided Germany, divided families. It became the symbol of the Cold War itself. Whenever people thought about communism and the East-West divide, they thought about the Berlin Wall. Fast forward to the 1980s. The Soviet Union was falling apart economically. The arms race with the United States was bleeding them dry. Afghanistan had turned into a quagmire. The economy was stagnant. The whole system was collapsing. And then a new leader came to power, Mikhail Gorbachev. He believed the system needed to reform. He implemented policies called glasnost, which meant openness and transparency, and perestroika, which meant restructuring. He was trying to reform communism from within to save it. He didn't realize he was actually signing its death warrant. These reforms inspired people across Eastern Europe. They started demanding more freedom. Poland had the Solidarity movement. Hungary started opening its borders. Czechoslovakia was stirring. The dominoes were starting to fall, just like the Americans had predicted back in the 1950s. Except now it was communism that was falling. In East Germany, people were frustrated. The government was still repressive, still controlling. They wanted change. They wanted freedom, and they were watching what was happening in other communist countries. By 1989, the pressure was building. Mass protests were starting in East Germany. People wanted freedom of movement. They wanted to be able to travel, to visit family in the West, to leave if they wanted to. The government was
holding on, but barely. And then on November 9th, 1989, there was a press conference. The East German government spokesman was announcing some new travel regulations. He was trying to make it sound like a concession, a loosening of restrictions. But he misspoke. He said, essentially, that these new regulations would take effect immediately. That wasn't what was supposed to happen. They were supposed to be phased in later. But the damage was done. News outlets reported it. People heard it, and they believed it. The wall was coming down immediately. Thousands of people rushed to the wall that night. They had hammers and pickaxes and crowbars. They started smashing it to pieces. The guards didn't know what to do. Their orders said to shoot anyone trying to escape, but there were thousands of people now, and the guards realized that shooting them would start a massacre. They stood down. They let people through. East and West Berliners were hugging each other.
Crying, celebrating. For the first time in 28 years, the wall that divided them was coming down, and it was happening right there in front of them. The Berlin Wall didn't just disappear overnight. It took months to completely demolish it. But those first hours and days in November 1989, those changed.
Everything. Within a year, Germany was reunified. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. The Cold War was officially over. Eastern Europe freed itself from Soviet domination. The entire geopolitical landscape of the world changed because that government spokesman misspoke during a press conference. What's crazy is how fragile the whole system turned out
to be. This regime that had seemed so permanent, so powerful, so impossible to challenge, it collapsed in a matter of months. The wall that had seemed so impregnable, it came down because someone made a mistake. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Systems that rely on oppression, on controlling people through force and fear, they're actually incredibly fragile. They look powerful from the outside, but they're hollow on the inside. The moment people stop being afraid, the moment they feel like change is possible, it all falls apart. The fall of the Berlin Wall wasn't just a moment in history. It was the end of an era. It represented the triumph of freedom over oppression, democracy over dictatorship. People talk about it as one of the greatest moments of the 20th century, and they're right. But what's often forgotten is how accidental it was, how close we came to it not happening at all. If that government spokesman had been more careful with his words, if the guards had received clearer orders, if the crowd had been smaller, history could have gone a completely different direction. That's what makes it so fascinating. Sometimes, the most important historical moments aren't the result of careful planning or bold decisions. Sometimes, they're the result of a mistake.